Welcome to Hannity. 2016 Republican frontrunner Donald Trump refuses to back down from his attacks on Bill and Hillary Clinton. I'm Rich Lowry in for Sean tonight. Earlier today, Trump continued to criticize the Clintons. Take a look.
Well, if you look at the different situations, of course, we can name many of them. I can get you a list, and I'll have it sent to your office in 2 seconds. But there was certainly a lot of abuse of women, and you look at whether it's Monica Lewinsky or Paula Jones or many of them, and that certainly will be fair game. Certainly if they play the woman's card with respect to me, that will be fair game, which he started about a week ago, talking about, oh, he mentioned, and, you know, the whole thing, playing up the women's card very, very strongly. And if she's going to play that game, and if he's going to be out there campaigning, then he's certainly fair game, and I think just about everybody agrees with me on that. This is a person who, you know, he's going to be out, and I like the fact that he's campaigning for her. He failed in 2008. He failed really badly. He frankly did a very poor job in campaigning, if you want to know the truth, and perhaps he'll do well or perhaps he'll do poorly. But if she's going to play the women card, it's all fair game.
Joining us now with reaction from the Washington Times, Charlie Hurt, and Fox News contributor Ebony Williams. Thanks, guys, for being here. Charlie, let me start with you, because there is some pushback on this Trump offensive, saying, look, what follows it of Hillary Clinton that her husband cheated on her? But it goes much further than that, doesn't it? Because Hillary was part of the political operation that went out of its way to attempt to smear and destroy the reputations of Bill Clinton's accusers.
Yeah, and to me, you know, that's the heart of this charge about sexism and stuff. You know, the Clintons, you know, are trying to accuse Donald Trump of being sexist because of the words he uses and things like that. But of course, his record shows that he has a record of hiring women and putting them in powerful positions. And yeah, he does use some coarse language, some language that shocks people. But it is nothing like what Bill Clinton did to people that work for him, young people that work for him that weren't much older than his daughter. And of course, as you mentioned, Hillary Clinton was, you know, her entire career as First Lady, pretty much, even before that, quite frankly, was dedicated to covering for him, covering for this horrible behavior, and doing everything she could to discredit the women, the very strong women who came forward despite the intense pressure not to, who came forward and said, hey, there's something wrong with this guy. This guy did this to me. And she, you know, she led the charge in destroying those people and their characters.
Ebony, what do you think? Is this a smart play for Trump?
Well, I think it's smart in one way. I think he's right that it's fair game, certainly. In the law, we say when you introduce something into kind of evidence, it becomes fair game. You've opened the door for it. So certainly the moment Hillary Clinton tossed Bill Clinton out there on the campaign trail to bolster her, she rightfully can't benefit from the added component of Bill Clinton and not reap the consequences of what he causes too. So Trump's right about that. But it's interesting because Bill Clinton remains incredibly popular, incredibly bolstering of enthusiasm for much of the traditional Democratic base. And that's the thing that Hillary Clinton, despite her best efforts, still has not been able to tap into, that enthusiasm and that rigor. So I don't know if it's the best choice on Trump's part to kind of wake that sleeping giant. I say let Hillary just be defective, let her be boring, let her be unstimulating to her base all by herself.
Okay, well, I don't think Hillary's going to have that much of a problem being boring on her own. And in fact, Charlie, I think part of the problem with Bill Clinton campaigning for her is you see this contrast between this really extraordinarily talented politician, the most natural, skilled politician of his generation, and Hillary, who's just not that good at this. She's sort of a grind. And when Bill was out there in 2008 working it hard for Hillary Clinton, none of his political skills transferred to her when she was trying very hard and ultimately unsuccessfully to beat a much more natural campaigner named Barack Obama.
Yeah, and just as the extraordinary coalition and diverse coalition that Barack Obama has put together in 2008 in that Sterling campaign and then kept together pretty well in 2012, just like none of that new coalition isn't going to be directly transferable to Hillary Clinton this year, nor is the extraordinary talents and gifts for politicking that President Obama has. And as brilliant a politician as he was in 2008, you know, there were a lot of stories back then about how she how he really, in a lot of ways, sabotaged her campaign in 2008, and people have wondered about it. And the single best explanation I've ever heard given for why he would have done it is that he knew that if his wife became the first female president in history, that would be such a big deal. The only thing that would be remembered about Bill Clinton would have been all of his antics in the White House and the blue dress and the Monica Lewinsky stuff.
Do you think that's true, Ebony? Because if this is a scary thought, if Hillary Clinton becomes president, she will be on our currency one day. It'll be a very big deal, and Bill Clinton will just be remembered as this transitional figure.
Yeah, that's interesting. Charlie makes an interesting point. I think that argument gives Bill Clinton too much credit, actually. I think that what we saw in 2008 was the Clintons both just totally missing the ball, miscalculating some of the most key points of that demographic, that broad coalition that Barack Obama tapped into. I'm talking about people of color. I'm talking about college students and young people. They really took that demographic for granted. They had a very entitled attitude going after that and thinking that it was just going to be rightfully theirs because it had been in the past. And people didn't respond well to that. I think they saw backlash around it. People were accusing the Clintons of kind of being racially insensitive and kind of saying Barack Obama needed to kind of stay in his place. It went very badly for them. So it was a very big political misstep, more so than I think a sabotage.
So, Charlie, let's take a look really quickly because we're talking about Clinton and Trump. And Rasmussen has a new poll that will get up on the screen about a prospective general election matchup between Trump and Clinton that is basically tied. And I think to most political observers, Charlie, that would be shocking, but not necessarily to you.
Well, no, because, I mean, the guy has really tapped into something, and it's not just angry white people. It's a far larger, broader cross-section of voters, and I think that we might find that it could very well make up a lot of Democrats and independents. But if indeed he is able to get these new voters to the polls the way Barack Obama did in 2008, it could be a real deal. And going back to the thing that Evie said, of course, I totally agree with what Ebony, what you were just saying about that. That is obviously the reason that they totally whiffed it in 2008. But my point is that the Bill Clinton of 1992 never would have misread that and made those grave mistakes that they made in South Carolina.
Ebony,
I agree with that point.
Address that poll.
Yes.
When you look at that poll, does that speak to Clinton's weakness, Trump's strength, or both?
I think it speaks to both. I'm not shocked by it at all. I agree with Charlie. I think that on the GOP side, Trump is probably best suited to run head-to-head with Hillary Clinton. I think he can have some cross-aisle appeal in a way that people who have never voted for a Republican in their life, including my own mother, will consider voting for Donald Trump because they believe that he understands the problem. That's kind of the first step here where we are now in today's society and political climate. They feel like he's not been a part of these historical problems, politically speaking. He's clearly a Washington outsider. So those numbers don't surprise me, and I think the left will be very, very afraid to run against Donald Trump head-to-head.
So, Charlie, really quickly, got about a minute left. Who among the other Republican candidates is the most serious threat to Donald Trump at the moment, in your estimation?
You know, obviously Ted Cruz in Iowa, you know, could possibly create a real problem for Donald Trump because, you know, if he does manage to win Iowa, and Iowa is always a giant asterisk in any of these things, it could still sort of create some turbulence for Donald Trump that he hadn't experienced before. He's never been behind really before, ever since he's gotten into this. And then you know, whoever it is that is, you know, right now it's Chris Christie. Whoever does really well in New Hampshire does the same thing. But you know, quite frankly, after you get past New Hampshire, Donald Trump, when you look at the state-by-state polls, he continues to look very, very good in individual races.
Charlie, we got to get out here. Thanks so much to both of you. Happy New Year.
So
See you next time.
You too.